Good afternoon, students. Students, are you hearing my voice?
వినబడుతుంది సార్. ఓకే.
Okay, right. Students, we discussed certain constitutional developments up to 1857 revolt in the last classes. And today we are going to see after revolt of 1857, the most important development in the history of Constitution of India is Government Act of 1858. Okay, so today we are going to see about the Government Act of 1858. Okay, so before going to details about the 1858 Government Act, and I have to share my screen. Are you getting my screen?
ఓకే సార్.
Yeah, right. So this is acts and reforms introduced after 1858, and before going to this details about Government Act of 1858, I will give you one or two points which taken place which prior to the 18 Government of India Act 1858. Okay, so the Government Act of 1858 was an act of the British Parliament that transferred the government and territories of the East India Company to the British Crown, and the company's rule over British territories in India came to an end, and it was passed directly to the British government. Okay, so when you see certain things regarding this Government Act of Government of India Act 1858, and which is had a long title when compared to the earlier acts. Okay, so earlier act had a short titles like Charter Act and Regulating Act, Pitt's India Act, like that. But which is had a long title for this. Okay, so and territorial extent, the territories under the direct British control, as well as the princely state who had to accept the suzerainty of the British Crown. Okay, so and which is enacted by the Parliament of Great Britain, and which is had a royal accent, which is approved on 2nd August 1858, and which is the act commenced from the 1st November of 1858. Okay, so which is a amendment taken place, and when you see certain backgrounds of this Government of India Act 1858, so the revolt of 1857 served as a served as a joint to the British government, and there was a widespread resentment against the company in the Britain, as the policies of the company were blamed for the revolt. And Queen Victoria, who was the monarch of Britain, also became the sovereign of British territories of India, and territories of India with the title Empress of India as a result of this act. Okay, so from the Act of 1858, the Queen Victoria, is Queen of Britain, which called as a Empress of uh, um, India. Okay. So, and the features of government, when you see certain features of Government of India Act 1858, and there are certain you can find certain changes when compared with other the earlier acts which passed before the 1857. There is certain difference you find. Okay, so those all those acts and the provisions of those acts only confined to the East India Company. Okay, but the provisions of this act, which is totally about the whole the territory of British India. Okay, so um, and the Indian territories of Britain were to be governed in the name of British Queen, and the Court of Directors and Board of Control were scrapped, and the powers of the company's Court of Directors were vested with the Secretary of the State for India. Okay, so one position which is created for the in charge of British India is, according to this act, nothing but the Secretary of State for India, one of the cabinet minister of Great Britain, and the Secretary of the State to be a British MP, Parliament member of Parliament, and a member of the Prime Minister's cabinet. Okay, so he was to be assisted by a council of 15 members. Okay, so and he was also the channel of communication between the British government in Britain and Indian administration, and he also had the power to send secret dispatches to India without consulting his council. Okay, he had certain he had discretionary powers. Okay, so without permission of his council, he can send any message, or he can approve any bill, or he can had a certain conversation with British Indian affairs. Okay, so and via the Secretary of the State, the British Parliament could ask questions regarding Indian affairs, and the representative of the British government in India was to be Governor General and Viceroy. Okay, so the Viceroy and the Governor of various presidencies were appointed by the Crown, and the Viceroy was to be assisted with an executive council, and this act made India a direct British colony. Okay, so and this act abolished the dual government, which is the dual government which is followed according to the Pitt's India Act, which is abolished the dual government according to this act. Okay, so this act also ended the doctrine of lapse, and Indian civil service was to be instituted for the administration of the country, and there was a provision for Indians also to be admitted to the service. Okay, so and it was decided that the remaining Indian princes and the chiefs would have their independent status provided they accept the British suzerainty. Okay, so when you see certain facts regarding this British India Act, where you can see that the first Secretary of the State for India is Lord Stanley, and Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli was opposed to the Crown directly ruling India, but his fellow MPs, his fellow member of Parliament Britain did not agree with the views, and the bill passed the House of Commons easily. Okay, so when you see certain things in the February 1858, Lord Palmerston introduced a bill for liquidating the company and transferring government of India to the Crown. And J.S. Mill, the famous industrialist who remained lifelong the serving of the East India Company, East India House, drafted the famous petition for the retention of the East India Company, and Lord Palmer Stone delivered a great speech in the House of Commons on February 12th, 1858, and very ably refuted the arguments advanced by the company for its retention. However, the bill became an act. Lord Palmerston had he resigned, and the passage of the Act for the Better Government of India 1858 was secured by the succeeding government. Okay, so when you see certain causes for this enactment, and the immediate cause of this enactment was, of course, the mutiny. And but there were many defects in the system of the this double government, and objections against those who stood in favor of this act. Okay, so firstly, it was argued that the political system of England was based on the principle that power was never divorced from responsibility. And whenever any organ of the constitution exercised any political power, it was made responsible for its proper use to a body of the elected representatives of the people. And but here was a group of traders exercising political power over India without being accountable to any popular body for their actions. And secondly, in the words of the Bright, the system of double government was a case of divided responsibility, of concealed responsibility, and no responsibility. And the board of control many a time laid the blame on the shoulders of the court of directors, while uh, while the tire often complained that board of control was squandering money on ambitious with the help of revenue collected by the company. And thirdly, when you see the system of checks and balances, and checks and counter checks made the government slow and clumsy in its working, and considerable delay was caused in the disposal of its work. Okay, so and finally we will go with the provisions. Okay, so here the government of India passed from the hands of East India Company to the Crown. The Governor General came to be known as Viceroy, and the military and naval force of the company were transferred to the Crown. Okay, so when you in the second provision, when you see in the second provision, uh, the board of control and the court of directors were abolished, and their powers were transferred to the secretary of the state for India and his Indian council. Okay, so you're well aware that before this act, there is two important councils which is adjoining to the Governor General of India. One is the court of board of directors, and one is the board of directors, and also board of control and the court of directors. Okay, so both two important councils you find, which uh, in the before this 1858 revolt. Okay, 1858 act, you find before that the two important councils. One is the board of control and the court of directors. Okay, which to be abolished, and the whole power given to the secretary of the state. And the third point, when you see, the secretary of the state was given the power to superintend and control and direct Indian affairs. Okay, so he was to sit in parliament and was to be assisted by a parliamentary under the secretary. Okay, so he was a cabinet minister of England, but his salary and that of his establishment were paid out of the revenues of India from 1856 to 1919. Okay, so the act which created Indian Council of 15 members. There is one more council you find along with the Secretary of the State, and which is the Council of 15 members, and 7 of them were to be elected by the court of directors, the court it directors, and remaining 8 were to be appointed by the crown. Okay, so and crown in the sense the government of Britain, and more India for at least 10 years, and had not left India for more than 10 years preceding the date of appointment, and members of Indian Council were to be holding office during good behavior. Each member was to be paid one 1200 and 1200 and dollars for a year from the Indian revenue itself. Okay, and when you see another provision, and the Secretary of the State for India was to be the President of the Indian Council, and he was given a vote and a casting vote in the case of a tie, and the council met twice a week. Okay, so you are well aware that under the Secretary of the State, a council which is appointed, and within the council you find the 15 members. Okay, so in any case, any voting has taken place. If any case, to the any case of passing a bill, if a tie is taken place, and the Secretary of the State can had the vote, he can utilize that. Okay, whenever it ties. Okay, so and the council met twice a week. Okay, so and the concurrence of the majority of the members present at a meeting was required for division and distribution of patronage, for making contracts, sales, and purchases on behalf of the Indian government, and in all matters connected with the property of the government of India, and the control over the civil and military servants of the crown was given to Indian Council, and it was to make appointments to the Council of the Governor General and the governors. Okay, so and the Secretary of the State was given the power of sending and receiving secret messages and dispatched from the Governor General without the necessity of the communicating them to the Indian Council. Okay, so and the Indian Council was 3 bodies of permanent civil servants chosen for their knowledge of Indian administration to safeguard the Indian revenues against the British Secretary of the State for India, and the Indian Council was to see that there was not tampering with the Indian civil services for the political reasons. And when you see another important provision, and the Act of 1858 transferred the government of India into the hands of Parliament, and the later acquired felt formal and legal control over Indian affairs. Okay, so and when you see another important provision, the Secretary of the State in Council ratio down the certain directions for the guidance of the government of India in its dealing with the England, and all projects of legislation, all measures concerning the revenues, construction of public works like railways, and certain new jobs, any question of policy or any problem involving new expenditure on a large scale, were rigidly scrutinized and controlled by the Secretary of the State. Okay, so and the Act also declared the Secretary of the State for India as a corporate body who could sue and be sued in the England and in India. Okay, so when you see the significance of 1858, India government for India Act of 1858, and the Act for Better Government of India passed in 1858 was an event of great constitutional significance. It closed one great period of Indian history, the rule of East India Company, and ushered in a new era of the direct and rule of the crown. Okay, so the Act of 1858 merely gave a burial to the corpus of the company, and the Act of 1858 drove the last nail on the um, which is nailed into the coffin, the much discredited system of the dual government, and it did away with the diffusion and diffusion of responsibility, which resulted as a result of division of powers of the government between the court of directors and the board of control. And the act introduced major changes only in entrant and affected only on minor changes in India. But the act failed to grant political rights to India, and it did not allow them any share in the administration of their country. Okay, so when you see this is, we can also say that the proclamation of the Queen Victoria and a darbar was held by Lord Canning at Allahabad on 1st November 1858 to declare the assumption of the government of India by the crown. Okay, so on that occasion, Lord Canning, you are well aware, the Lord Canning was viceroy. He was the first viceroy at that time. Okay, so Lord Canning also read out the Queen's proclamation to the princes and the people of India, we are told that the ministers were directed to frame the draft bearing in mind that it is a female sovereign who speaks more than 100 million of European people on assuming the direct government over them, and after a bloody war giving them a pledge, okay, which her future resign future reign is to redeem, and explaining the principles of our government. Such a document should be the feeling and generosity. Okay, so benevolence and religious toleration, and the point out the privileges which the Indians will receive in being placed on equality within the subject of the crown, and prosperity which is following the train of civilization. Okay, so it is the matter of fact that the Queen's proclamation was worded in the accordance with his sentiments. Okay, so when you see in the Queen proclamations, there are other certain provisions also you find, and the first one is the rule of East India Company ended from India, and the rule of England was also the ruler of India, and the treaties signed with the Indian ruler earlier were duly recognized. Okay, so whatever the signs treaties. Uh, Whatever the treaties which is taken place before 1858 revolt, 1857 revolt, those were recognized. Okay, so and the principles of doctrine of lapse were withdrawn, and it was proclaimed, and complete liberty was given to Indian rulers to adopt their sons, and the Indians could be appointed in government services as per their qualification, and the religion and culture of India would be given due respect, and every caste, religion, creed, rich became equal before the law, and at last ensuring every good for the Indians. Queen Victoria had proclaimed in their prosperity will be strength in our commitment, our security, and in their gratitude be uh, uh, best reward. Okay, so the proclamation went on the declare unconditional pardon, amnesty, and amnesty for past offenses, and ended by declaring that when by blessings of providence, internal tranquility will be restored. It is earnest desire to stimulate the peaceful industry, to promote work, public utility and improvement, and to administrate government for the benefits of all the subjects residents therein. Okay, so when is these are certain things when you see the significance of Queen Proclamation. To put in a simple language, the Queen's Proclamation assumed the Indian princess that their territories will not be annexed by the British government, and they shall be given the right of adoption. Okay, so the British government ordered its servants in India not to interpret the religious affairs of Indian territories. And in framing and administering law in India, due regard was given to the customs, ancient rights, and usages of India. Indian subjects of Her Majesty were declared equal with the British subjects. Okay, so subjects in their part of empire, and equal rights, opportunities were granted to the Indians along with the other British subjects, and pardon, amnesty were offered to all those Indians who were still in arms against the British government and who are not guilty of murder of British subjects. Okay, so treaties of England, East India Company were declared to be in force. Okay, so and the Queen's Proclamation of 1858 was a great landmark in the constitutional history of India, and the declaration of policy remained the basis of Indian administration up to 1917, when a new declaration was made by the British government with regard to India, and the declaration tried to remove the fears of the Indian princess by guaranteeing to them their position. It also gave an assurance to the Indians that Englishmen will not interfere in religious affairs. Okay. So further, this proclamation sealed the unity of Indian government and opened a new era. And the memorable proclamation, justly called the Magna Carta of India, was published at every large town throughout the country, and translated into the vernacular languages. Okay, so these are certain provisions and significance of significance of Government Act of 1858, and the Queen's Proclamation, which taken place in 1858. Okay, so this is the first act which passed immediately after 1857 revolt. Okay, so after that, after this 1857 revolt, many other constitutional development has taken place, like the Indian Council Act of 1861, and Charter Act of 1893. Okay, so Indian Council Act of 1892, and certain other Indian Council Act of 1909 is nothing but Minto Morley reform, and so the Indian Council Act of Government Act of India 1919. Okay, likewise, and the Government Act of India 1935. Okay, so likewise, many important acts also passed after 1857 revolt. Okay, so this is the first Government of India Act 1858 was the first act after 1857 revolt, and this is about Government Act of 1858, and we'll see other acts after 1858, like the Councils Act of 61 and 1893 likewise. Okay, so this is end of my class today, and regarding this 1857 1858 Government of India Act 1858 provisions or any significance of this act, you had any queries or any doubts, now you can welcome to ask me. Okay. So Venkatamma, are you hearing?
వినబడుతుంది.
ఓకే. దీనికి సంబంధించి అంటే 1858 రిబోల్ట్‌కి 1858 యాక్ట్‌కి సంబంధించి, గవర్నమెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా యాక్ట్‌కి సంబంధించి ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే చెప్పొచ్చు.
ఏం లేదు సార్. ఓకే.
ఫైనల్‌గా సర్టైన్ this act to be had certain important provisions which is also you are getting on the screen. ఓకే. సో స్క్రీన్ మీద కూడా కనిపిస్తున్నాయి, మీరు ఒకసారి మీరు చెక్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే. సో నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్లో చూద్దాం 1861 అట్లనే 1893 యాక్ట్స్కి సంబంధించి. ఓకే. సో థ్యాంక్ యూ. I am going to ending my meeting today and I will meet you on Monday again, right?
Okay sir, thank you.
Thank you very much.